episode of the Walleye Files is brought to you by Thunderhook Fly-Ins, the premium fly-in fishing destination in Ontario, Canada. Trophy walleyes, giant pike, and remote wilderness adventures await. Book your trip now at thunderhook.com. We've got Dan Harper here, and we are going to do a tackle talk about trolling. Not something you see Mr. Harper doing very much of these days, but I feel like we need to do this. I think this is important for all the guys who love to go out and troll, pull cranks, pull spinners, whatever. I think it is very important that we cover this stuff. So, Mr. Harper, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm having a good day. Had a good workout, and my Browns won a crappy game, and Miles got the new sack record. So yeah, it's a good day in Ohio.
There you go. Yeah, I feel good too. I've been working out a little bit, trying to shed a few pounds, get my back a little stronger before the whole national tour season kicks off here in April.
Yes, sir.
But trolling, I don't know. I love trolling. I love trolling. What do you think about trolling, Mr. Dan Harper?
So I grew up, in my early career-ish, trolling. Obviously, we trolled a lot. A little funny joke about trolling is when I was at my first National Walleye Tour event with Keith Cavallis, and I was on stage after day one, my first day as a co, and everybody knows here I love casting. Anthony put the microphone in my face, and he's like, what'd you think about your day, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I like trolling. And I still get that text from my friends all the time. So, yeah, trolling's it's a very important part of the game.
Yeah, it really is important. And like I said, we want to honor all the guys that love to troll, all the guys that spend a lot of time trolling, because there are a lot of people doing that. Live scope is not the only game in the world. It is a necessity, especially for guys who want to compete on the national tours. But if you want to just go out and catch a pile of fish, this is a great way to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think to that point, like I was talking to my buddy Mike at the end of the fall brawl and the walleye slam here, and we had some tough weather conditions, and we both at the end, I was like, "What'd you learn, or what do you think about this fall season here?" And we had such tough weather conditions, and we both said we're never going to take the trolling rods out of the boat. So something to always keep in your mind and be good at.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna break this up into like 3 or 4 segments. We're gonna do like a shallow cranks to start here. We'll do a deeper set of cranks, and then I'm going to talk about spinners because that's my favorite thing in the world. And then we'll just talk about equipment after that. So kicking her off, Dan, I'm going to start with the most versatile shallow water bait, in my personal opinion, in the world, and that is the number 7 flicker shad. Dan and I have caught some absolute donkeys together on this bait. Bay of Green Bay, we've caught big ones in 3 feet of water. I proved it to Dan that we could catch 12-pounders on Lake Erie a couple of years ago. And he kind of laughed at me, and now I'm laughing because I caught a 12-pounder. Several other big ones, 8 to 9-pounders on this bait. I love the shad style. I mean, if you're fishing anywhere on the Great Lakes, anywhere really in the Midwest, you're going to have some type of shad as a forage in your system, most likely. And this just mimics it perfect. And of course, the boogie shaky shad by Walleye Nation Creations is another super similar bait profile. And really, we're just matching the hatch here. I'm fishing this probably anything less than 15 feet of water. You can do some things with snap weights and other things to get this deeper. It's a great bait outside of that. But for the shallow portion of this podcast, I really like the flicker shad, and of course the shaky shad is a great one as well. Just because same profile, a little different bill, dives a little different, the dive curve's a little different. I urge you, if you don't have the Precision Trolling app, to get it because it's a lifesaver. But that is my favorite bait on earth as far as a shallow water crankbait is a number 7 flicker shad.
Yeah, and I think it's a very underutilized. It's a very utilized bait, but also I think guys here are starting to figure out ways to utilize those smaller cranks. I know here this past summer when the bite got a little tough, a lot of guys were running little flicker shads or the money badgers behind Dipsies offshore. And those little baits were really producing some big fish when guys were running bigger spoons or bigger cranks on lead or on wire. Those little baits behind Dipsies did a really good job. So it's always something to keep in the boat because you never really know when it's going to be a player for you. That flicker shad's a great bait. Sam will make some really good small cranks for some shallow water stuff, especially like I really enjoy trolling out in the Missouri River system in the springtime when those fish get up shallow. Those small cranks you can pull quick, cover some water. Those fish respond really well to it. It's just a super simple way to get some fish in the boat, like you said. You don't have to really overthink it. You don't even really need boards. You just put some flat lines out, troll around on some shallow flats, and you're going to probably have a good day.
Yeah, and you've talked about that. Real quick, talk a little more about that because that's something you've done in like April, May, June on some of those Missouri River systems in those back bays. You kind of call it drunken sailor fishing because you're making figure eights and going back and forth. There's no real path there compared to what I like to do on the Great Lakes as far as following a contour. But yeah, talk a little more about how you do that.
Yeah, so when those fish, I learned that, I got to travel with Greg Eli, and he taught me that program. So in the springtime or early summer, when those fish go into those back of all those creek arms, they're chasing shad, and they're post-spawn fish. The shad are getting ready to spawn or are spawning. Those fish it's anywhere from 2 to 5 foot of water. You can drive around. You don't really have to set up on a straight line. You can just kind of drive around. You just, and higher speeds typically work a little bit better. In short leads, 30 to 50 back on these really small crankbaits, and it's just a really fun way to have some fun, catch some fish. It's a really productive way to put some fish in the boat. You don't really, it's not really, there's no science to it per se. Like you're not really doing anything wrong. You get them 30 to 50 back. You drive around from 2 to 3, 4 miles an hour. You don't really set a course. You just kind of drive around until you run out of water. You turn around and drive back through. It's a really fun way to do it because when those fish smoke them, they're in there for a reason. They're killing those shad, and those rods just load up. Wow, 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 wow. And it's just it's a really fun way to put some fish in the boat and to catch fish. It's one of my, I don't troll a ton anymore, but that is one that I will always take to that area because it just works and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we do something similar here, late April or into early May. I don't go at really high speed. I'm talking like 1.3 to 1.5 at the very most. The same thing. I use number 7 flicker shads, and another bait we're gonna talk about is the number 7 flicker minnow. And same thing, 2 to 5 feet of water. I like rock to sand transitions in the springtime. Shad are kind of in that shallow as the water warms up, and you're just going to beat the hell out of the sand with those baits. I like beating the bottom with the bait. It gives them something to track, gives good vibration off the bottom, kicks a bait sideways, gets a good reaction bite. Nicole and I took second in an event. I've taken top 5s in multiple local events just doing that. 3 to 5 feet of water, nothing super crazy. It's not super technical, but there's a rhyme and reason to why they're in there. They're eating all the shad that are spawning. They're eating the shiners that are spawning, and you can get some giants. I mean, some of the biggest fish I've ever seen in May have been in 3 feet of water, 28 to 31 inches.
Yeah, it's a very accessible way to do that, especially out there. Here, not so much because we don't have that kind of structure per se. But where you live, and definitely in that Missouri River system, when those fish get up shallow, you don't have to have a big boat. You don't have to have Cisco trees and big boards or little boards, or you can just drive around those backs of those bays, and you can definitely put some fish in the boat and have a great day.
This episode of the Walleye Files is brought to you by Lake Effect Lures, the tackle that turns every cast into a catch. Built for serious anglers, tested on real fish, and proven to get bites when nothing else will. Get yours at lakeeffectlures.com. Yeah. So, do you have any shallow baits?
I don't have any shallow with me. Those salmos are probably those little salmos are those
4.5 hornets. Yep.
Yeah, they're probably my favorite. You turned me onto those at Winnebago like 4 or 5 years ago,
Yep.
and I kind of fell in love with those baits. I really like Semel products. They make a true running crank. They're good hooks. It's good components. It's a good bait. It's just the colors are great, and they work. And it's I found out there, especially when I do that stuff out on the Missouri River system, that typically it's like a flicker shad, a salmo, We had fish this year on Francis Case, on the Walleye Nation, shaky shads, like number fives.
And then the boogie shad's that one that's real similar to a Salmo as well.
Yeah, and you can get like anywhere in that inch and 3/4 to 2.5 inch bait. And on those smaller fish, those aggressive fish on those flats, like we were pulling flats on Francis Case in 3 to 6 foot of water, and I was doing the same thing out there. And that's worked up and down that system for me. It's a great way to do it. And sometimes those salmos will outfish this, and the flicker shad will outfish the salmo, and the Walleye Nation will outfish all both of them, and it's just you kind of have a couple of little different styles of those baits and those shallow cranks, and you'll find kind of which one those whatever rattle or action that those fish are keen on. We'll get them going for you.
So the one other bait that I brought for shallow water trolling would be a P10, and you can use these in deep water. Plenty of guys do, especially by you. But I really like the 4 to 7 foot of water stuff with these, just because early spring in Wisconsin, March into April, this has this big wide wobble, big knockers on the inside. I mean, you can hear it, big knocker rattles. Those fish don't want that tight wobble. They don't want that super tight wobble. That water's cold. They're still a bit lethargic usually. And that big wide action, I really like these baits, in shallow personally. And obviously, you spend a lot of time casting with these baits on shore. We've covered that before, but same principle, you're not diving hard into rocks. You're just kind of swimming along. You're not doing anything super crazy with it, but when those fish want to eat, they eat.
Yeah, and like that bait's good like in the springtime for you guys up there, and that bait fires here in the springtime. Typically, we run that more on a snap bait system to get down deeper when the fish are deeper, but still want that action of that bait. And then in the fall time here, going into early winter at the end of the slam and stuff like that, a lot of guys that do troll shallow along the shorelines will be running P10s, 30 to 50, 60 back in anywhere from like 3 to 9, 10 foot of water when those fish are in there chasing the bait. And they just absolutely destroy them. And it's a really easy way to fish. You don't have to really worry about dive curves per se. You just put some boards out, spread them out, troll shallow flats. You're going to catch a lot of fish, typically big ones. And they really, really, really enjoy that action.
Absolutely. So moving on to deep water baits. I've got a pile of baits in front of me. Hopefully I don't drive one into my hand here doing this. But do you have any to start off with?
Yeah, so for me, just Lake Erie, just like easy stuff. Like when you come in, like obviously the Bandit, this is a great color for me, right? It's just got again a good knocker. She runs true. It's a good starting point. Typically on Lake Erie, you always be able to catch fish on Bandits. There are some days when you have to kind of alter a little bit. They want a little different action, a little different knocker, subtle, whatever size. So you can kind of within that program, like usually if I'm offshore trolling, start with like some Bandits. I'll start with some Flicker 11s. This is an atomic perch. Great color here.
I've got a 9 here, but same principle.
Yeah, absolutely. Or like a Husky 12. Like a Husky 12, like if I had to pick a couple baits, it'd be a Bandit, a Husky 12, and then I'll show one more here. But usually it's like you'll find them on days where like they're smoking Bandits, or they're smoking Huskies, or they're smoking Flickers. So you kind of play around. When you're starting, they put a couple of different baits out in the spread. Kind of let those fish tell you what kind of action or wobble or vibration that they want to get onto. And then they'll tell you, and you can kind of dial in your presentation from there. But those are 3 really great baits. There's so many companies that make good custom colors too. If you want to expand on just the basic colors, you don't really need to, especially here on Lake Erie, like blue silvers, whites, yellows, any of those type of yellow perch colors will work really good. If you want to get into it, the reef runner, the old school reef runners, they always work. They're a little challenging sometimes. You have to make sure that they're tracking true. But they have a place where they've won a lot of money here on Lake Erie, a lot of money.
Yeah.
So you always got to like keep them honest. I have some friends that like Ronnie really loves running reefs, and he's really good at it. And you don't need to go down that road if you don't want to, but it's another great deep option. I've found when those fish, and you say there's points in time where you're catching them on bandits or you're catching them on Husky 12s, and the bite gets a little tougher. I kind of downsize my baits. I keep them deeper. I just downsize. So for me, like the Salmo, deep Salmo, this is the 9. It's, comparison in size to a bandit, but the bill is still there. So you're still going to get good action, especially on a flat line. You're going to get good depth. But sometimes just downsizing to like the number 9 Salmo, like a number 9 Flicker Shad, I'm sorry, Flicker Minnow, or the deeper hit stick number 12. Yeah, I'm sorry, this is the 10.5. Just going to a little bit smaller size, but keeping that bigger bill that gets those baits to depths, especially on flat lines, can just fire that bite back up for you.
Yeah, and I think one other bait, you have the Reaper and the Little Reaper by Walleye Nations. Especially out west, this is a great bait on Oahe, Kakawea, all the western fisheries with trees and shad in the system. Same thing. This is another shad style bait, but it's a great one. It works great on Erie. Won a lot of money there as well. Yeah, I think varying your size of your bait might be as important, as just about anything else, because if you're not running true to the hatch, you're not going to get as many bites.
Yeah, and that's something like I've learned more with pitching. And sometimes they want a 5-inch plastic, a 4-inch plastic, and sometimes they want a 2.5 or a 3-inch plastic, and that really holds true with crankbaits. And I think that's an adjustment that guys here, especially, don't make a lot. Is downsizing those baits. They don't have them. They get nervous about running them. They don't think they're going to work. I've got some friends here that like never leave deeper than 20, 25 foot of water, and they run flicker shads or shad wraps like 20, 30 back from April through October. They never leave this, and it always works. So just making sure maybe if you're going to get into it, to have a little bit of difference in your baits, to cover a little bit different depth zones, sizes is a big thing for sure.
Yeah. So moving on, we're going to talk spinners real quick. And my personal opinion, there is not a better technique on the Great Lakes. From this episode of the Walleye Files is presented by Image 360 Inc. and Crown Trophy of Oshkosh, Wisconsin. For over 30 years, Image 360 and Crown Trophy have been Oshkosh's go-to for signs, vehicle graphics, custom apparel, and awards. Proudly serving northeastern Wisconsin with quality that speaks volumes. Your brand deserves to stand out. Let's make it unforgettable. Need signs that pop, graphics that roar, and branded apparel that turns heads? Image 360 and Crown Trophy in Oshkosh have been rocking northeastern Wisconsin for 30 years. From bold branding to epic awards, we bring your vision to life. Let's go. Love Image 360 and Crown Trophy. July 1st until probably September 1st in the Midwest, I don't think there's a better tactic, personally, as far as trolling than pulling spinners or crawler harnesses, depending on whatever you want to call it. So I personally spend a lot of time doing. I used to spend a lot of time. This was all I did. I have 1 ounce inlines, probably about a 5 to 6 foot lead. I use 20-pound Seagar for my fluorocarbon leader for this, and then I've got Gamakatsu 1/0 octopus hooks. I use seven beads, not more than 7, not less than 7. I use 7 beads. I like Colorado blades and willow leaf blades. My dad's had a lot of great success over the years with a big hatchet blade, but I like a number 5 or a number 6 Colorado on a clevis, of course. And when I'm fishing a spinner, I am not ever gonna pull up to a piece of structure and just run right over the top of the middle of it. I am going to find where the wind is pushing into it. Walleyes are super wind driven, especially on the Bay of Green Bay and on the Great Lakes. I'm going to find where that wind is pushing into, find where the current is pushing into, and I'm going to ride that edge. I'm not saying you can't catch fish running over the top of a structure, because there's going to be fish on top of it they want to eat, they're going to eat. But your majority of your biting fish are going to be on the wind-blown side of that structure. I've probably cashed more checks and won more money on this exact bait than any other of my baits combined. And it'll always hold a special place in my heart.
Absolutely.
You've done it with me. I don't know. Is there anything you picked up pulling spinners with me that you can
Yeah,
think of?
but I think the pulling spinners, if you're on Green Bay, I think obviously the way that you guys let them out there is very important and integral to that presentation. Make sure that you're fishing correctly and you're fishing sure you're not scummed up. So the loosen those drags and letting those lines kind of slip back. You could probably talk better about that than I can, but that was a very big thing that I've learned about fishing spinners up on Green Bay.
Yeah. So a lot of and I do that everywhere just because that's how I've always done it. But a lot of guys, especially if you're wide open water, like on Lake Erie, you're throwing the clicker on, you're letting the board pull back. It doesn't really matter. Bay of Green Bay, I'm fishing 15 to 25 feet of water, mainly pulling spinners. I'm fishing areas that are usually rock. They're going to have a pile of gobies in them. That's what these fish are feeding on. So when I'm letting baits out, if they touch the bottom, you might as well reel them in. Gobies are going to eat them. It's going to have zebra mussels on it. There's going to be moss on it. One of those three things is going to happen 99.9% of the time you let a spinner out. Fished a tournament this last year. I had a comment that we were doing a giveaway. I just had a comment asking, hey, when was the last time you trolled in a tournament? You probably don't do that anymore. Took fourth in a tournament this year, pulling spinners. And my buddy Tommy T Panic, if you're listening, I appreciate you. The first half of the day, I don't know if he just he just never pulled spinners like this. We're letting baits out, and it's like, nope, reel it in. Nope, reel it in. And I think he probably got frustrated listening to me tell him, no, just reel that in right away, because it's a very particular way of doing things. I loosen my drag up until that bait is just pulling out, barely pulling out with the board on. It takes forever to get it out there. It is a bit tedious. It is super frustrating, but when it works, it is as effective as any other bait in the world. And that's why guys like Corey Springle, Ryan Dempsey, the local sticks on the Bay of Green Bay who have won thousands of dollars on these baits, still fish them that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very important to make sure you guys are doing that there. Up here, it's not as much important. Open water pulling spinners here is something I don't do a ton of. We have so much trash fish that putting a crawl in the water without being connected to it can just be a very frustrating day. That being said, pulling here, when I do it, I usually will run them on bottom bouncers. So trolling spinners on bouncers, on contours, on structure, or deep mud flats, 40 to 50 foot mud flats, can be very effective and a really good way to target those fish when they're down low. You will usually run out of the smaller trash fish that are sitting mid column, upper column. So just running anywhere from 4 to 8 ounce bottom bouncers, pulling, might tighten up that length on the spinner that you showed, bringing it down just a little bit so you're not dragging in the mud. It can be a very effective way to get big fish that are kind of in a mid to negative mood. So I still enjoy pulling spinners that way. And another thing that I think a lot of guys probably just forget about is a crawler works pretty much year round. I already kind of knew that. We were fishing a loot championship a few years ago, and we ran from Cleveland over to the point, and we were catching big fish on on bandits most of the morning. And my buddy Todd, he just hangs off a corner rod, a 2 ounce bouncer with a pink and white spinner and a crawler. And this is like December 4th or 5th. Water temperature is 33, 34 degrees. And that caught our biggest fish. There was at least, I think, 1 9 or a couple 9-pounders off that presentation. So pulling spinners and crawlers, as if you're getting into it, I wouldn't be afraid to really ever start or stop using them. Keep them in the boat. I usually keep them in the boat. You always have them in the boat. We mostly always have crawlers in the boat. And even when you're trolling cranks, you can just put a spinner on a down rod. I know, like when we're trolling here in the shallow water in the springtime and summertime, when they're coming into the rocks here in 15 to 25 foot, most of our crankbait presentation is above the rocks or mid column because they're in here chasing shiners. But we typically will run like an 8 ounce bouncer off the corner, no board, with a spinner, and that usually will catch you 1 or 2 good, really big bites. So just always keep that idea in your head that maybe we should put a spinner out.
I like it. Last thing we have is just equipment. Talking about equipment. I know you've got an offshore board in front of you. You showed it to me before we started.
Yeah,
And
this one's an old
I
brand Ripple very
yeah, she's dirty. She's been used a little bit. And
Yeah.
I've got a whole pile of um, church tackle boards in my boat. I used to be on the Church Tackle Pro staff. I really, really enjoy the boards. Both are great. They're both a very nice product. I really like the pin with the slider for church tackle. I really like the heavier duty clips, not the one that you have on that particular board, but there's a heavier black clip um, for the offshore boards. I like the tattletale system or the tattle flag system or the the flag system for church tackle. Yep, that's super important, especially on bodies of water like Winnebago and other places with a lot of smaller trash fish in the system, small sheephead, white bass, crappies, whatever. That they may not actually pull the board back, but you're going to have an indicator of some kind. Hey guys, today's show is brought to you by Walleye Nation Creations, lures built by anglers for anglers. From the death jig to crankbaits that drive big walleyes crazy, they've got the tools to help you land your next trophy. Make sure to gear up at walleyenationcreations.com. What are you running for rods these days, big guy, for trolling?
So I got a mix between the Daiwa RGs and then I still have a couple of Denali's. It's just a 736 telescoping rod with a low profile leader, 12-pound maxima on there. I like the low profiles. It's kind of the way they fit in the rod holders a lot better. A couple of things that I do here, and we've talked about a little bit, is I'll run like 2 or 3 foot from a barrel swivel from my main line to a fluorocarbon leader down to my snap, down to my crank snap. You don't really want like a barrel swivel snap. You just want a crank snap. And for here, when we're running, we have so many small fish, and we've talked about this before. When you have just those smaller ones on white perch, 12-inch, 15-inch walleyes, you can just crank it in, grab the swivel, lift it up. It kind of protects your main line. You don't really have to worry about respoon and like, oh, this reel was dialed into 100 foot. You go out and fish a day, you catch a bunch of big sheephead and whatever else, and now your line's all wrecked at the end. That usually will kind of stop that problem from happening at least a little bit and give you some more life on your main line. So that's like a really good just general setup. I can use that for pulling bouncers. I can use that for pulling spinners, for pulling cranks. Outside of that, just the basic snap weight right system. This is a guppy weight on an OR18 clip. This is a 2-ouncer, but just snap weight and just to get baits at different depths. And then like just a stupid thing that like maybe I mean we do a lot of here, but maybe I'm sure a lot of guys do, but just having a lure wrap. When you're running like a big bandit and you are trolling and you've got 6 to 10 rods in the back of the boat and you're running out there in 3 to 4 foot waves and your rods are jingling all over each other or whatever else, just wrapping your lures and a little bit of this will save you a huge headache when you get out there. Your lures and your cranks won't be all wrapped together. They won't be stuck to the foam and the handles and all the other kind of nonsense. So just a nice little easy way to keep things organized.
Yeah, and organization and efficiency is definitely key when you're pulling any type of trolling deal. I think that is the hardest part for a lot of guys to wrap their head around. As far as guys who live scope, is that we do it because it's efficient, and if you are efficient as a troller, you are going to be just fine, always.
Yeah, I agree. And to the point of efficiency, and I'm going to try to demonstrate this if I can without totally screwing it up. And you mentioned those black snap clips that we put on the front of those OR boards that you guys run a lot of Green Bay. And not a lot of guys run those here. We typically run the OR clips on the front of our boards. Like when you guys catch a fish, it's usually a good fish, right? You're just like, all right, whatever. I don't want that board doing anything stupid. Here we have so many fish, and it's a blessing, and it's also somewhat of a curse. It could be frustrating when you have a spread of 3 to 6 rods per side, depending on how many guys you got in the boat. To just make sure you're crossing your lines and bringing them in good. And I think maybe that's something we should talk about too before we end this, is just how you go about fighting those fish on those boards when you're trolling them in a little bit too. But on Lake Erie, when we have we're trolling our board, just a really easy way is just to take the line and just pinch it in your finger and make, whatever, 6, 8 loops. You're going to get this little section of mono here. Just take that and then just put that right in your front clip. And you have a little loop on there, and then just connect it to your rear clip and send that out there. Now, and it's going to fish the same. It's if the clips are good, and that's the big thing with that system is just making sure your clips are they still are strong. But when you get out there and you get bites, and it looks like if it's a big fish, it's going to take it back. It's going to be a big fish, whatever. That's not the concern. The concern is when you run in, 4, 3 to 6, whatever lines per side, and you hit that 16 incher on your outside board and you want to clear that line and clear that fish without wrecking the rest of that side of the boat, bringing crankbaits over. You just, that board will start to go back a little bit. Just pick that rod up and just kind of pop it a little bit, and that loop will pull out of the front clip, and that board will immediately turn to the tail, swing to the stern, and you can bring it right to stern. It'll clear all your lines. It's a really efficient way to clear those small fish out of the spread, not really wreck the rest of your lines. And just kind of make it for a more fun day, because when you start crossing lines and you bring them in and they're like, it can get really frustrating and you immediately want to stop trolling. That's a really efficient way that a lot of guys here do.
Sure. And the one thing I would say is if you're pulling cranks, that's great. And the one caveat to that for me, and that's why we don't do it a lot on Green Bay, is when you're pulling spinners, there is no popping. There's no hard jerks. It's you and the fish. I don't want any play in that because for whatever reason, even with the amazing Gamakatsu octopus hooks that I buy, they don't stick. They don't always stick. Those fish kind of, it's just a different way of doing things here. One other thing I thought of, we talked about this in our line tackle talk. So if you have not seen that, make sure to go back and look at it. I am running 12-pound Berkley big game on my trolling reels just because I have it's the same diameter as Berkley XT, which is the same diameter as they use on the app. On the precision trolling app, I want to know where my baits are. If you're using a heavier diameter monofilament, you're not going to be able to get down as far. It's not going to be the same dive curve as it is with 12-pound or 8-pound, which is different. So making sure you're using the correct line for your setup. And like I said, I like mono. Guys run braid. I don't love to do that. I hate braid for that, but everybody has a preference.
Yeah, and I think just one more little thing, and I learned this with you when we talked about our first time we met when we were fishing on Huron, and I grew up, trolling crankbaits here and just bringing them in and whatever. It wasn't tournament scenarios. One thing I learned from you on that day was how to fight that fish, especially when you're getting them close to the boat. Rod tip down. You don't want to be pointed right at the fish. Kind of give them, kind of come sideways to that fish a little bit. Let that rod tip take their head shakes and absorb that shock so you're not pulling hooks. It will help you when you get that fish of a lifetime at the back of the boat and you're going 2 miles an hour and you're scared out of your mind it's going to pull a hook. It's just kind of letting that rod take the shake and not point your rod tip right at it, because if you do that, he's just got nothing but line to pull. He's got nothing but leverage on you. Keep that rod tip to the side, let him load it up, and I learned that from you, and I definitely incorporate that into my system now. Let that rod load up, let the fish head shake, and just slowly keep tension on him and don't stop cranking. Just keep him rolling. If he wants to pull a little bit, set your drags right, but just kind of keep him coming in nice and steady and easy. It's a really efficient way or a really good way to make sure that you're getting those big fish in the boat. And run real quick thing to that point of getting the fish to the boat when you're trolling cranks. Here our speeds are, in the colder water period, 1.2 to 1.5. You get up into that, mid-summer period, you're in 1.5 to almost 3 miles an hour, depending on what you're doing. A really easy way or a nice way to make sure that you're kind of getting the best that you can. Like this is a stock bandit and this is a stock bandit hook. We here and we change out our rear hooks. So just a little modification. This is a KVD triple grip number 2, which fits like a bandit perfectly. It won't fit a Flicker 11 because it's just a little bit too heavy a hook for that action. It fits a Husky 12 grade. The Salmos take a good, but this is like again the KVD number 2 triple grip or the Fusion 19, Berkley Fusion 19 number 4 round bend. Super sticky hooks, but just having a little bit upgraded hook on that rear end, because most of the time, here at least, when those fish come up and get it, they're getting it like this. They're not really eating it from the head. So like anything you do back here to kind of upgrade your chances of getting that fish to stay on the boat, you're going to get a little bit wider roll on that hook with the bigger hole on it, on that split ring. It's got a big gap, super sticky. Will kind of just help your catch rates.
I love it. Awesome. That is a great tip. Thanks again for joining me, buddy, for the Tackle Talk Tuesday about trolling. Again, thanks to our sponsors, Walleye Nation Creations, Striker Brands, Image 360 and Crown Trophy, Lake Effect Lures, Bellevue Spice Company, and Thunderhook Fly-Ins. I remembered them all. Look at that. Thanks again, guys, for watching. Make sure you join us next week. We're going to have another Tackle Talk about, I think, we're going to do talking about scent. We're going to talk about scent next week, so that'll be a good one. Thanks, buddy.
I appreciate you, brother.